They tell me I got a hell of a temper. Well, I don't know. I figure it took a lot of restraint not to kill her.
I want him out of here. I'm sick of getting beat on.
Judy, is there any weapons involved?
I don't know. He's bringing out my house. He said, I'll kill you if you do anything to me. He said, you call the cops tonight, I'm going to kill you. Well, you see what he did. He pulled the phone. I can't take this anymore.
We need to keep it at the forefront of our minds. I know that last year there were almost 10,000 police phone calls made on the issue of domestic violence, and so we want to make our community aware of how many people are being affected by violence in their family, in their homes.
For the Milwaukee Commission on Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault, every month is one in which they meet and try to raise awareness of the problem and coordinate the community response to it. In September, the 33-member commission met to set goals and objectives for 2004.
The Milwaukee Commission on Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault is an agency that's housed in the health department as part of city government, which is a consortium or coalition of providers and systems that affect victims and families affected by violence, whether it's sexual assault or domestic violence. We also, as a matter of necessity, deal with child abuse and neglect and other child maltreatment issues, child witnesses to violence. None of us can address an issue as large as violence in families or sexual assault by ourselves. Many of the problems faced by victims, survivors, and families are systemic issues, and we need a place where we can collectively identify what those problems are and figure out ways to solve them.
These are all people who are experts within the field of domestic violence and sexual assault, people who have direct line experience with those who have been affected by those issues, and people are brought together to address, are we effectively serving the needs of people who have been affected by domestic violence and sexual assault? Are there ways we can improve?
At the end of 2002, Insight Milwaukee reported on the training session for the new Family Violence Unit within the Milwaukee Police Department. Since January, that special unit has investigated 600 domestic violence incidents. The Commission received an update on the unit at the annual meeting.
The number of calls have gone up slightly, and now they have gone down significantly. So I would hope to think that the initiation of this unit has had some effect on the number of domestic violence calls that we've had. Family violence has a profound effect on the people of the city of Milwaukee. And it's important that we address these types of crimes and that we do it in the right way.
The Family Violence Unit isn't the only new approach to dealing with domestic violence. The Commission works to keep up to date on changes within the community.
Are we being culturally competent? So we're also looking at cultural competency. Are we providing effective services that are showing empathy and understanding to different languages in our community?
If you are in imminent danger, call the police at 911. For general information on domestic violence, women's centers and shelters and services available in Milwaukee, call the Commission at 286-2997.
Victims of domestic violence often think that they're alone, that no other people experience these types of situations that they're living through. And I believe that everybody needs to understand that there is help out there. And all they need to do is get plugged into the right place, and we can provide that help.
Without the Commission kind of looking at ways we can work together and truly help people, and we're talking about 10 to 15,000 people, and that's probably a low number in the city of Milwaukee, who are being helped through all the people who gather together on the Commission, that our community is a better place because now it's healthier. And by working together, because we can't do it alone, we have a healthier city.
Because violence is so far-reaching, it affects not just the traditional criminal justice aspect, because what we are talking about is criminal behavior, but it also affects health, it affects education in the schools, it affects businesses and whether or not people are able to be productive members of society. It affects socioeconomic status and poverty rates and overall health and whether or not people are getting the access to health care that they need. So there are many different aspects of it. And the difficulty is it's such a big problem that we need to come together annually and plan what we're going to focus on. And what we talked about today was prevention in terms of getting out messages that could stop abuse from ever happening.
I don't mean anything. It's just you're getting so angry.
That's enough! 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 That's enough! I'm gonna give you something to scream about! Get over here! Get up!
I can't.
I'm talking to you! Get up!
I can't get it.
Stop crying! You're asking for it again!
According to the National Centers for Disease Control, 23% of Americans over 18 smoke. Tobacco causes 440,000 deaths a year. Every day, nearly 4,000 young people under the age of 18 try their first cigarette. Those statistics are a major concern for the Milwaukee Health Department's tobacco control program.
The goal is to not only help people quit, but help people not to start smoking. It works with community organizations and is also very involved in youth infusing initiatives in tobacco control and prevention throughout the city.
Young people like these, part of a key initiative by the Health Department and other sponsors, they meet at Milwaukee's Strive Media Institute, a nonprofit mentoring and training program. It was founded by a former tobacco company executive to help young people be heard in the mass media. One of their programs is called FACT.
FACT is a youth-led anti-tobacco movement created by teens. It was created back in 2001, and we all gathered down in UW-Madison, about 300 teens strong. That's what it started with. Now we're 6,000 members strong and still growing. And basically, it was just created to fight against corporate tobacco, and that's the acronym, fighting against corporate tobacco, and that's what FACT makes up. And basically what we do is teach other teens activism. We also hold rallies, things of that sort, to help educate teens on the harms and effects of tobacco through information, get teens interested in it, and let them know that this is what's going on, whether you see it or not. This is what they're doing. This is how they're trying to target you, and we're not standing for it, and you shouldn't either.
Robert used a graphic demonstration with pig lungs, very similar to humans, to show what health officials say are the effects of smoking. One healthy-looking set represents a non-smoker's lungs. Another was chemically treated to show what the health department says is an example of the effect on lungs of a pack-a-day habit for 15 years.
We give presentations high school, middle school, elementary school. We even go all the way down to elementary school because they're starting young, so therefore we got to target young. You're never too young to be educated, and that's something the FACT strongly believes in.
A second program called Wisconsin Wins targets the retailer. That program was implemented statewide after a study showed 33.7% of retailers illegally sold tobacco products to minors.
And what we do is we basically go out to different stores and see if they do sell tobacco products to us. We are supervised by adults, and we go back and tell them that they did sell or they tried to sell tobacco products to us. And they go back in with information about Wisconsin Wins, telling them the laws that you can't sell tobacco products to minors, and you have to card and just remind them that they're not doing the right thing and they need to get more on their job.
A 2003 survey of over 600 businesses showed that 58% of the retailers didn't ask for an ID. 42% did. And if the clerk won't sell to them?
Well, the adult supervisor goes in and gives them posters, stickers, and a gift certificate to Culver's, thanking them for doing the right thing and not selling us tobacco products.
A third youth-led, adult-guided campaign is called Crossing Out Smoking to help promote smoke-free environments.
Well, Crossing Out Smoking is actually a movement, such as FACT, that brings awareness to everyone, youths and all. It's a campaign, really. We do a lot with teens. We train teens to do short presentations when they conduct surveys to go in restaurants to speak with the manager or the owner. And we just asked them, could we have a little bit of their time to fill out a survey? It's a 6-question survey. And if they say no, then we just say, have a nice day, and we leave. But if they say yeah, then it's great. Then we give them a little knowledge about secondhand smoke. We tell them that they are affecting their waitresses, their health.
The Tobacco Control Program provides support to other health department programs, since so many other health issues are affected by smoking.
Cardiovascular risk reduction program. It's related to impacts people who have diabetes. It impacts maternal and child health. It increases the risk of fetal infant mortality for mothers who smoke around their children. It increases the risk of SIDS, which is sudden infant death syndrome.
A lot of Milwaukee youngsters will be getting the anti-smoking message for Halloween. This teen group came up with the idea of attaching messages to the Halloween handouts, messages warning of the dangers of secondhand smoke and the risk of serious illness from smoking.
Direct health care costs due to tobacco are phenomenal in our state. In 1998, the direct health care costs related to tobacco were $277 million.
You can call 286-8104 with any questions about the Milwaukee Health Department's Tobacco Control Program or the teen anti-smoking programs. Milwaukee City government knows what it's like to be lobbied by fact. The young people were successful in convincing the city to adopt an ordinance for smoke-free government buildings and vehicles.
And if you've ever been in a program where which is youth-led and adult-guided, you can really see it surprises a lot of people how much they not only have to say, but how hard they research the topic that they're working on. So it's been a very good blending of issues. Good community youth getting involved in things that make a difference.
The Ranch was a popular style home when the College Heights neighborhood was being developed in the early 1960s. Residents say there are 3 basic home styles here: the ranch, a slightly bigger ranch, and a ranch turned sideways. The variety comes in the exterior decorations and additions. Except for a couple of split-level homes and a small condo development, nearly all of the 374 single-family homes are ranches. College Heights is surrounded on 3 sides by the city of Oak Creek. It covers the area from 13th to 20th Streets, College Avenue to the city limits. It's home to only about 1,000 people, including many current and retired city employees who have lived here for many years.
We just liked it here. The price was right, and we liked the neighborhood. We had looked at several homes before we moved in, before we looked at this one. And we've been here 33 years, which is longer than we thought we'd be here.
71. So we've been here about 32 years, long time. At the time, I can remember my house payments were $165, and our rent was $125, and we didn't know if we could spend the extra money. So I think we paid $18,900 for this house 32 years ago, which was for a house that was at that time kind of modern. And this particular house was built in 1964. So, been here a while, well kept up, kind of a quiet neighborhood. Not a lot of through streets, so we don't get a lot of hot rodding or trucks through here, which is kind of nice. It's a quiet neighborhood, quiet. We got the noise from the freeway, but otherwise it's a nice, quiet neighborhood.
That freeway is Interstate 94. It cuts directly through the middle of the College Heights neighborhood. The Wisconsin Department of Transportation says over 140,000 vehicles use this stretch of freeway daily. And a freeway in the backyard was a consideration.
That was the biggest thing, was that expressway. But at that time, there wasn't nearly as much traffic. 30 years ago, you know, I mean, you could jump on that thing anytime and go anywhere. And, you know, it's increased. The volume of traffic is just staggering today compared to when we moved in. And we thought for a newer house, we could probably put up with that.
It's a little easier to put up with because of the sound barriers that were installed about 5 years ago. Neighbors had a say in what they looked like and fought to keep the trees which were growing on the freeway berm.
So they left as many trees as they could, which is really kind of nice because we get a lot of wildlife through here. Occasionally a deer. Every once in a while we see a coyote through there. Raccoons, rabbits, squirrels, and a myriad of songbirds.
The noise doesn't bother me. The only time the noise has ever bothered me was during Harley Fest, and for 4 days all I heard was the roar. It's the rumble. Okay. Otherwise it doesn't bother me, and I don't think it bothers too many people around here, any more than the airport bothers a lot of people.
The neighborhood isn't in line with either of the two main airport runways, but the planes do land, take off, and circle in the area, adding to the sounds from the freeway. College Heights is all residential on the west side of the interstate, all commercial on the east, primarily hotels catering to travelers driving through and flying over. There is a play area and a tot lot at Jewel Playfield in the middle of the neighborhood, but otherwise it's all residential, no tourist attractions in College Heights, and that's just fine with its residents.
I would say if a tourist is going to come by, he'd be looking for a house. But the houses here seem to go pretty fast. I think they're moderately priced, and young families dive in pretty rapidly.
It's very affordable. I would say it's a lot of first-time home buyers in here. The kids that are in the neighborhood now, or at least in my area, are the kids of the kids that grew up with my kids, that kind of thing. But we're doing very fine here.
People who were here when the subdivision was developed in the early 1960s told stories of a neighborhood that changed almost overnight.
The neighbor said that their house had been here about a year, but then they would come through and they would dig like 6 basements at a time. And then they would send a crew out and they would lay the forms and they would pour the concrete for like 6 homes at a time. And they would just go from home to home to home. And then the forms all the concrete would cure. They would take the forms off, ship that all out of here, and then the homes were built in a warehouse or a hangar someplace on Mitchell Field, and they would actually truck walls in here. And it wouldn't take long, and they could just slap up a house, 1, 2, 3. So she said you'd come home one day, and all of a sudden it'd be another 2 houses, 3 houses, 6 houses, and you had new neighbors.
Now, 40 years later, College Heights is pretty much like it was back when it attracted its first residents. Quiet streets, accessible, affordable. The average assessed value in 2002, $106,000. But the years are bringing some changes.
We're going through that transition right now where people are replacing all their windows and the doors and replacing some garages, the older garages. And you see people putting up decks and patios, and it's kind of nice. It's kept up pretty nice.
Very family-friendly area. We share the pool next door. Our backyard used to be a volleyball court. Kids from all over the neighborhood used to be around here. We still have pecker parties and things like that in the neighborhood. Very few disagreements among neighbors, very few. And within 5 minutes of the freeway, I can get anywhere within a reasonable amount of time from here. If I want to walk somewhere, I can walk to the movies, to the grocery store, hardware store. It's within 15 minutes at the most to walk somewhere and get what I need. Very happy here.